See, man, listen, we've been talking this game for a long time.
And they said if one doesn't kill him, the other one will, right? And I was like, oh, I get that. Perfectly understood that premise. When asked about this, Mr. Killar, the CEO, said, "Sounds juicy." So hey everyone, welcome to Show versus Business, your weekly take on pop culture from two very different perspectives. I'm your host Theo, and on the line I have the man himself, Mr. Benja. What is up?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Good, man. So, man, short to the point, huh? Usually you got a little bit more banter than that at the beginning.
Man, this week when you produced a lot, I recorded. Let's see, this will be my third podcast this weekend, and I got another one I think I'm gonna do tomorrow. So yeah, man, just been in production mode.
I love it. I love it, man. So yeah, we'll get into it. So today we'll talk. We have our new segment. We'll talk a little bit about Elon Musk and he's selling out Bitcoin. We'll talk a little bit about Venom 2 trailer. And the Army of the Dead is coming out next week in Netflix, and I think it's already out in theaters. Then our feature story this week will be streaming wars continue. We'll talk a little bit about what the latest news is around that and what that means for the future. Then finally, we'll do our rewatch section where we'll kind of cover two shows this week: Jupiter's Legacy and The Bad Batch, episode 3. So, with that being said, Ben, how was your week?
Week was good, man. People sleep on the process and getting all your ducks in order and working things out. So I cracked out the whiteboard again, erased all the tenant material I had on the whiteboard, and started doing some brand building, some avatar creation, and planning out the process so these things can get produced better.
I love it, man. I love it, man. So the process continues. You sound like a NBA basketball team, man. It's a process. You gotta go through
Do your
it. So
drills. Do your drills.
I love it. I love it. So yeah, my week was pretty good, man. Not too much traveling this week, but really understanding what's going on in the world with the content creation. I'm really excited to get into a little bit about what the streaming wars are doing. So that's kind of exciting to me as well. And something we kind of talked about, in the show notes, we need to kind of talk a little bit about our old school relevance, man. I mean, you and I have been friends for a long time here, man. You're not going to get into it, but I would say quarter of a century here, older quarter of a century, and so there's a lot of pop culture that we can dig in the crates on, man. And so I don't know if you have any special episodes that you want to kind of talk about briefly, man, of our experience together.
See, man, listen, we've been talking this game for a long time, and these youngsters, y'all about to get some old game on you. So I'm gonna go ahead and embrace that little mantle. But what happened was I was watching some anime, bouncing around, and some people were trying to put me on Boruto, and I was like, all right, man, whatever. Um, the new Legends of Boruto. All right, check this out. And I've seen Naruto, so I get the whole vibe. But someone in the comments was like, yeah, it gets good around episode 65.
Oh no.
65, dog. And I was like, okay, what's going on here? Why is this even a question? Because I don't know. That just seemed bad to me. So I went back and watched. I thought maybe my perception was off. So I went back and watched The Sopranos. Man, no crazy effects, just good solid cinematography, characterization, acting, storytelling, and an incredibly strong presence. All you need to do is watch the first episode and you will be, if not hooked, you'll be at least enthralled by these characters. You'll be like, I wonder about this and that. What are his needs? What are his wants? How are they going to resolve that conflict? What's going to happen when these two characters get together? It's like all this stuff is happening, and you're like, wow, this is really well done. And you see, well done um, to a lot of people now. It just seems like they're trying to throw out, hey, let's get this product placement. Let's make sure it has whatever effects on it. Let's get this cast member. Oh, wait, we have to make sure that we're telling a proper message that's going to resonate with our audience. And it's like, look, man, that's all nonsense. Get a story, get your story right.
So for folks that don't know it, Sopranos was a TV show that ran on HBO back in 1999, and basically it was a show set in New Jersey about a mob boss and his day to day life, not just as a mob boss but also as a family man. And so, and then I guess it's not a spoiler alert, but he has an incident where he has to go through therapy and he's trying to reconcile both lifestyles, right? And definitely set the world on fire. And, it was one of the top shows for a long time and ran for 6 seasons. And I agree, man. I mean, there's some shows that I watched. I wanted to watch even before I saw the TV show. And I don't know if you remember the poster for it, right? It was like he was sitting in the Tony Soprano was in the middle, and they had two pictures of people, or his real his immediate family, kids, wife, and his mob family. And they said if one doesn't kill him, the other one will, right? And I was like, oh, I get that,
Yeah,
perfectly understood that premise, and I was just like, I'm there for it, and it didn't disappoint. To your point, man, it was like every character. I mean, it was like, and if you watch mob movies before, we can talk about that. Maybe we'll do a special pod on that mob movies, but it's a lot of same kind of characters, but it was like a different spin. It was kind of like this is what they would be like in modern day, right? It's not
yeah,
set in the 20s or 60s. It's set now, and they're just living their life, dealing with what we deal with, but at the same time, they're robbing and killing folks. So
yeah.
it's just like this is crazy.
And yeah, definitely. Thank you for that recap. I just jumped right into my feelings on it because it got me in the feels, right? Um, but no, we talked about this a little before. We were asking like, what's Netflix's problem with their shows? Why can't they gain traction? Why can't they keep holding on to something for multiple seasons on and on? And it's because I think they're missing a lot of this classic theatrical storytelling momentum that something like Sopranos has. And if you really don't get what I'm talking about, go watch The Sopranos. Game of Thrones does it decently well. And, we could do a whole thing on that, but it was just very interesting to see that kind of contrast after all this time.
No, I agree. I agree, and I think you just sparked something in my mind. I think that's what you hinted at during our live session. That you said I have some insight on why Netflix shows are not the greatest. So I think is there something else you want to add to that mix, or was
Oh,
that pretty much
yeah,
the
I
big
did
thing?
mention that we were going to do that in the live show. We do a Facebook Live, by the way, everybody. So if you're on Facebook, you can catch us live during the week at one point. Um, but I did say I was going to say more about that. Um, well, okay, so the Netflix production pipeline, and I'm not an expert on how they do it, but they're not like your traditional studio. What they're trying to do is get get these people in with their ideas. And it's a pitch for, hey, I can reach this demographic that matches up with your audience's demographic. If you're trying to bolster, you know, 15 to 20-year old, you know, Pakistani males in America, they exist. We have a show for you, and it's like, oh, okay, good. We want to make sure we get this segment of the audience. We can target all these shows to them, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and this is what they do, but that type of production building doesn't really say, hey, we need a story that's going to focus on this type of emotional content, this type of um, overarching story. Here's what it says to the current climate. And that's how previous storytelling used to go. It's like, hey, do we have characters that everybody can kind of jump onto and understand, even if it's coming from a very specific point of view? Like Sopranos comes from a very specific point of view, New Jersey mob family kind of thing. That idea isn't for everybody, but the show itself is very um, broad. I mean, everybody can kind of
Mhm.
start watching it and say, "Yeah, yeah, I get it. You have problems with your, sister and brother, and this and that happens." And um, so the way their production works, it naturally caters to these quick ideas that don't have Netflix's production. I mean, that doesn't. doesn't really push the idea of having these long term heavy shows. And maybe they don't want that. I mean, it may be completely intentional, where after 2 seasons, it's like, hey, your little idea about X, Y, and Z didn't go well. Sorry, on to the next one.
Mhm.
That may be their thing. I don't know.
Nah, this is a great insight. So it's basically storytelling by targeting, audience targeting. Think of it like Facebook, right? They target audiences and they
Hmm.
give you the right ad for that audience. If you're a black male, 40 years old, that live in Florida, right? This is the ad you're going to see. It's likewise, this is the kind of content you want to see on Netflix. And to your point, storytelling is not always, by targeting, creating something audience exactly wants, right? Storytelling is more risk taking, right? It's more like you said, it's a feeling you're trying to evoke, and really the best storytelling, no matter what perspective is told from, right? It's about really getting to the characters. And Sopranos. I'm not from New Jersey. I'm not a mob boss, but I understood where he was coming from. And so that specificity, when you're trying to create these stories, I think is really relevant. And HBO, I mean, before they got bought out by HBO Max, and we can talk about that maybe later, but they understood that, right? The
Hmm.
storytelling they were creating. That's why a lot of the shows were just like always, home runs. They developed them a while. But whereas Netflix, to your point, is like, okay, people want to see a serial killer show. Boom, we got one called You. Now, is it good? Who knows? But we got it out there. People are talking about it, and we're gonna have another season. So it's that's a fair point. I think it's you see the problem with technology driving storytelling, right? And so the algorithm is good because it keeps people on it. But what they're going to run into if they don't have good content that's going to keep people sticking there, then you're right. Then we just talked about it, right? We Netflix is not number one in both of our books, right? It's kind of like down the line a little bit what we go to watch our content, and Netflix is going to be in danger of losing people because they don't know how to create compelling stories.
Yeah, it is noticeable, hole in their repertoire. How many of those series have they come out with that are really just classic? And you're like, oh man, yeah, that Netflix show really did it for me. Stranger Things, sure, maybe I'll give you that one. Um,
Well,
but
all the earlier shows, let's think about it. All the early shows are pretty and compelling. I mean, House of Cards, that blew out the
yeah,
box at the very
yes, that
beginning.
was
Orange is the New Black. I mean, and then I think Stranger Things was still on that beginning phases of everything.
now
After that, though, it's like,
what
and we'll talk about one later, Jupiter's Legacy. What's going on there?
Well, one thing about their beginning shows is that they really didn't come from themselves and their push. They were trying to scoop up a lot of these little shows that were like hidden gems that, it's like, man, Paramount didn't pick us up. We didn't get picked up by, um, this other service. We didn't get picked up by ABC or whatever. What are we going to do? And then Amazon comes in with the sack of cash and it's like, say, bruh, you've done all the compelling thought and story work. Come my way. And so that's how you got a lot of the early shows. Now that they're in there controlling their own destiny, it's like, um, I hope what you're going to do is working out. I'm not sure. Yeah, I just think they need a little more balance in the force.
I love it. Yeah. So we'll talk more about it in our streaming, wars conversation, but it's very fascinating. So hey everyone, look, this may be a new feature. They'll let us know. Like I said, we'll dig into crates here and talk about some old content you probably maybe remember about. We can talk about it. Ben and I've been talking about this stuff for decades, so we can definitely pull one out of the rabbit, and we'll celebrate 25, 30 years ago. This movie or TV show came out and kind of give you guys a perspective and
Yep.
see why it was so relevant. So yeah, let's keep it going, man. I love it. So let's move on to the news, man. Let's see what happened this past week. This week we saw that Elon Musk he put it out there after his interesting take on Dogecoin at SNL, which basically he tanked it by calling it a hustle. He then
Oh,
came back. Yeah, then he came back and said, "Well, how many of you want us to use Dogecoin for SpaceX, right, to kind of help fuel SpaceX investments?" And so, anyway, he's all over the place. But he also there was a policy initially with Tesla where you will be able to use Bitcoin to buy Teslas, right? Now, all of a sudden, they reversed that policy and they said you can no longer use Bitcoin to buy Teslas because uh, the team felt that Bitcoin was bad for the environment now, right? So, man, this is interesting take. I mean, so I have some takes on it, but what was your quick thought when you saw Elon Musk? And after that announcement, of course, Bitcoin has been tanking and it's down below where it's been over the last 3 months.
So you got to understand who Elon Musk is. Elon Musk is not every day thinking about, uh, you know, PayPal. He's not thinking about Tesla on the daily. He's thinking about living on Mars. That's how his billionaire crazy mind thinks. He's just like, I want to live on Mars. So he's got this Tesla operation going on, and he's like, yeah, sure, Bitcoin, all that, da 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 da. But you got to remember, one of the major points about Tesla was that it was being put forth as this environmental, it's going to be safe for the environment, better for the environment than fossil fuels, and we need to start going in this direction. So the company of Tesla itself and all the majors behind it are like, yeah, we're environmentally, appropriate. We love the environment. Elon Musk, on the other hand, is kind of like, hey man, Bitcoin, Doge to the moon. Let's fire up those mining computers.
To the moon.
Yeah, Doge one, baby. Um, and that, for those of you who don't know, Bitcoin mining, a whole process of the blockchain, basically, is a big hit on the environment, at least in its current form and the form that most people use it in. Um, the electricity and the amount of processing power required, it outweighs many small countries. So that may blow your mind that some guy trying to trade a bunch of Ethereum or whatever is causing more of an environmental spike than like Finland or something. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's it's pretty serious. So I think a lot of the noise got to him, and he was like, you know what, we can't go against our company mandate in Tesla. That just doesn't make sense. So until they get their shit right, we got to pull back a little bit.
So I mean, that's the altruistic version. That hey, they're trying to save the environment, and I
Yeah.
don't know, man. Tesla. I mean, Elon Musk is kind of like a pump and dump kind of guy, man. It seems like he'll hype up something and then drop it in a second. So if it comes to find out, the SEC finds out that he ends up he sold his position in Bitcoin before he made that announcement. That's
Ooh.
that's 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 terrible. That's gonna be a violation, man. And so,
Uh,
I
uh.
mean, I think he's smarter than that, though. I don't think money. He's not motivated. You would think he's not motivated by money because you're right. I think he's really trying to help us become a multiplanetary species, right? But like I said, I would be if he does. If it comes to find out he did do that and then Bitcoin tanked, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of angry people, man. So jury's still out on that. It's just it's scary when you have somebody that has that much control over a market, right? Whatever he says,
So
man, makes that market spike up.
so where does this get weird in terms of like financials, and like he's just saying, what responsibility does he have? Because he could say, you know, hey, I love these little Doge doggies. They're just so cute, and price goes up. What does that even mean to the
Man,
market?
well, it's just like the SEC doesn't even understand what is market manipulation anymore. Remember the whole thing with GameStop, man. Remember, we talked about that a couple months ago, man. People were talking about it and tweeting on it. Who were influencers who had, hundreds of thousands of followers, and they would like. There was one guy, he was an ex Facebook business guy. He tweeted something about, what was he was going to invest in at GameStop, right? Or
Hmm.
when Elon he tweeted stonk, game stonk, right? Stonk. And it went through the moon. People kept buying. And so it's kind of like, where is that market manipulation, come in? Because I don't think the rules and regulations are prepared to understand how Twitter is influencing, these stock bros, right? These Reddit, Wall Street bets guys that are out there trying to do what they're
Yeah.
doing. So like I said, I don't have all the insight on that. Maybe we'll try to bring someone who understands that a little bit more. But I tell you, man, it's the wild, wild west, man. And it's like, I get the benefit of crypto, and I understand the argument of environmental because I think Bill Gates have raised that argument as well, and other folks. And there's other arguments against Bitcoin, right? Obviously there's a legal transaction piece that people have talked about for years. Now the big thing is that it's also could be against the U.S. best interest, right, to have Bitcoin take over because you don't know if
Mm,
China or someone else is going to create like a coin to kind of combat us, and having Bitcoin, get more and more pub makes the US dollar go down. So they think it's a cybersecurity risk. So there's a lot of different things that are going against Bitcoin right now. But I do feel like, it is, the cat's out the bag. It's like a Pandora box. This is something that's there. People know it's there. They want to invest in it. And having something that's decentralized does make sense, right? I mean, if there's it's a year-long battle
yeah,
between centralized and decentralization, and so I think Bitcoin will still have its day long term because there's just too much, just too much money to be made here. And so I think that people are going to, especially, it'll be tax season Monday, right? Taxes are due Monday, FY, when we're, recording this. The IRS is cramping down on, your crypto money. So like I said, long story short, it's scary because there's a lot of manipulation going on. It's still early days, but they're getting more sophisticated tools. They're going to figure out how to tax you, and I think this still will be it will rule one day. But people just gotta hodl, man, and stay on it because I'm a believer that there's a lot of opportunity there.
yeah. Um, it's weird. No telling what exactly is going to happen, but that's where all the movement's at in crypto right now. Um, you said decentralized, and I'm wondering how decentralized the actual end product needs to be, because you know if you're just talking about computers talking to each other, there are extremely efficient ways to do that without the way it's currently done. Let's say all your servers, you have a server set owned by Microsoft, a server set owned by the US government, Apple, and Google. Or hey, let's just go ahead and make it the FANG server set, right? And add the government onto it. That's you've got enough servers there to quickly, do all your calculations, transactions, and go about your business. And that'd be a lot more efficient than, you know, random random bunch of guys off in Iceland, with their server farm, and so yeah, exactly, you know what I mean? So there are many more efficient ways of doing these kinds of transactions, and most people honestly don't care that much about being decentralized. They either want to make some money, or they just want to, make transactions quickly without having to worry about people finding out or whatever. But it's something will happen, and it's coming down the line. I'm just not sure what it is.
I love it. Yeah, this is where we're at, man. Of the future, I love it. So speaking of future, man, coming here soon is a new movie. Set I guess in the future, where Venom, is a main character of his own movie. Venom, the first movie did extremely well. That they came out with Venom 2. This time they're gonna introduce a little character called Carnage. So the trailer just came out this past week. Ben, what'd you think?
You didn't like Venom, did you?
I like what they were trying to do with it. Okay, let me take a step back. No, I didn't like it. I thought it was like it reminded me of a better produced Spawn movie. Remember Spawn, the movie
Oh
that came out
God.
years ago? It
Oh
was
God.
it was because there's a little bit better acting, right? A little bit more special effects. I mean, literally, I think they had Tom Hardy, the guy who just got nominated for an Oscar, Riz Ahmed, and Michelle Williams. Those three folks between them have like Oscar nominations, and it's like it was still a crappy movie, man. And they tried to make it like a Valentine's Day movie. It was like a weird, thing they were trying to go with it because, as we both know, Venom is a character that basically likes to eat people's brains. I mean, that's his orientation.
Yeah.
He started off as a was it the symbolite? How do you say that? Symbolite? I always
Symbiote.
say symbiote. Thank you, symbiote of Spider-Man. It was like a new suit. That was cool. Say, hey guys, look at this new suit. I'm black. Yeah, Spider-Man's in black. Turned out to be an alien that tried to kill him. So he had to get rid of it, and then he formed with someone else, Eddie Brock, and the rest is history, man. So I guess now Venom is going to this anti-hero phase in comic books, and so they're trying to bring that to the TV show, I mean to the movies now. But yeah. So long story short, the first one was okay, man. It was trash, but yeah, I get what they were going with it. Venom 2, I mean, if you want my take on it first, it still looked the same hokiness, probably
Yeah,
even more so.
I
And
don't I don't
so,
I don't think they're toning it down at all.
no.
I actually enjoyed the first Venom. I totally get what you're saying. Like it was kind of goofy. The effects weren't all there. It was staged like a simple '90s kind of monster slash cop show almost. I don't know what kind of
And it made $800 million though. Isn't that crazy? It made $800 million. That was crazy.
it was. And it's one of those things that hit like a certain. I'll just go watch this. I'll have some popcorn. I'll laugh about it, and it'll be fun to me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. What about this one that's coming out? What is the trailer giving you confidence that you're still gonna enjoy it?
Yeah, man. It's like going to Taco Bell getting a Mexican pizza. It's not like good, but you enjoy it. It's like, look, it's crisp.
Your
It's
analogies, man. I love it.
it's crispy. It's greasy. It's got cheese on it. Is it good? I don't know. I enjoy it though.
A Mexican pizza at Taco Bell, man. Oh my god. There's so many things wrong with that.
Exactly, exactly. There's so many things wrong with Venom. It'll be interesting to see how they try to push it on into this new Spider Verse that they've been talking about for ages.
Yeah,
We'll
isn't
see.
they have on their what's it
Morbius.
yeah, Morbius, the living vampire, he's coming next, with Jared Leto and some other characters. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Sony's really trying to push their own little universe, and so far it seems to be working for them. So Godspeed, man, to them. But like I said, I like Woody Harrelson. He's gonna be the character Carnage. I mean, it makes sense if anyone's seen Natural Born Killers back in the day. He, makes sense for him to be this character. So like I said, I'll watch it, but it's like sure, one of those things. Speaking of movies coming out, man, let's hit these up real quick. Cruella is coming out here in May on Disney Plus on a new, I guess it's called All Access. So it's extra $30 if you already have a Disney Plus subscription. So basically that's the prequel for 101 Dalmatians. Sure. Are you excited about this one coming out this month?
Well, here's the reason I threw it in there. When you mentioned Venom, I wanted to talk about Cruella because the whole anti-hero thing is it's kind of weird. Um, and Cruella and Maleficent, those kind of shows, they're taking it to a new level where it's like, no, these are categorically bad people, but we're going to humanize them and make them
Hmm.
nice and appealing. And I
They're
don't know.
misunderstood. They're
Right.
misunderstood.
Oh,
They
yeah, I
had
don't.
a bad situation. If you had a bad day, you would be just like
Right.
Venom or Cruella.
You
Good point.
you go around killing dogs, and it's like, would I? No. So it's weird. It's not the traditional anti-hero where it's just guy who's rough around the edges like Wolverine or somebody. These are actually like bad guys that we've created evil mythologies around. Like that's the bad guy. Do not be that person. 2 summers later, hey, they got their own movie. I don't know.
You think we're gonna have a Thanos misunderstood movie one day?
Oh God. You know,
They kind of shoehorned it in there. I don't know if
yeah,
they were
yeah.
like,
He's
he's just environmentalist. He just so many resources being used, and so he gets it, man. He gets it.
sitting on his front porch eating fruit. You know, I'm on my farm with my fruit.
So anyway, man. So more to come on that. So like I said, some new movies coming out. We're excited about. So real quick, we're gonna cover these real quick. Black Superman. So it seems like that's moving forward, man. We talked about before when we first started this pod. We talked about Black Batman week.
Yep.
We're gonna move to Black Superman week. Superman week. Is that where we're at right now? Black
Mm.
Superman week.
I don't know if there can be 2 weeks.
It just doesn't flow off the tongue like Black Batman. But
Yeah.
yeah, what do you think about Black Superman? Like we said, it looks like it's moving forward, charging ahead. They're trying to get a director. No one signed up yet that I've read, but they're already talking to some actors. So I don't know. Thoughts?
They talked to Michael B. Jordan. I liked his response. He was like, "Hey, um, I hope it works out for whoever decides to do that." When they asked him if he wanted to be the guy, he's like, "I hope it works out for the other guy, but not me."
I don't know, man. They put that big truck next to you and just pull it up, man, and say, "Look, you'll be set for the rest of your life." Who knows, man? He might have a price. I mean, I know he's trying to start the whole without remorse. I don't know if you saw that on Amazon. I
Mhm.
saw that he's trying to start this whole Rainbow Six kind of trilogy and movie franchise. So I give him props for that. Movie was okay. I saw the potential, but I didn't think it was all that great. But I see what he's trying to do. So I wish him well, man. If he can, bring it to light, it's gonna be a lot of work, man. But they can, like we talked about on the live version, it's like it could be done well. It's
Mhm.
just, you just gotta think through it.
I do question the John Clancy roots for that, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. And then finally you mentioned here, Amazon Prime, has some shows that they kind of highlight as number one. Obviously, we know Invincible Boys have been up there. This latest show, Them, I guess is it produced by Jordan Peele or introduced by Jordan Peele, but it's in that same genre. We know that this kind of racial supernatural thriller type genre, right? That he kind of basically originated, right? It didn't
Yeah.
exist before. So them, I mean, I watched a little bit of it. That Stevie show. I think you finished it. What are your thoughts there?
It's unsettling, but it's interesting that enough people have watched it that it keeps on showing up as the number one series for a while. Invincible popped in and took that mantle, but now that Invincible finished and everybody's binged it, yeah, I look back and it's them is back at number one. So it's definitely getting traction from a lot of people. My Facebook people are talking about it too, so it's a quiet hit, I guess.
Yeah, good for them. Amazon's gonna keep hitting its hits. They have another show that's kind of similar vein, the Underground Railroad. We talked about a little bit before the pod, and so look, Amazon's about that money, man. So if people like, for lack of a better word, black, what's it, black misery, the type movies and TV shows, then Amazon's all with it, man. They're gonna keep giving it to us. So,
You know, I
like I
saw
said.
I saw my parents took me to see Mississippi Burning when it came out in the theaters. I know I was listening to you when you were saying, you want to you kind of watch what your kids, ingest and everything in terms of these shows. And some of them, I would actually see my parents sitting around the kitchen table thinking, "What about this one?" Like, okay, let's do it. It's like, Benjamin, are you ready for this? I'm like, ready for what? Do you need to know the real story about why we drive so fast through Georgia and Mississippi? It's like why we try to get where we're going. It's like, what are you talking about? How y'all start acting weird? It's like, yeah, we got a movie for you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, real quick on them. I mean, I like it. I mean, I like the acting. I like the cinematography. I like the story. The writing is really good. I mean, it's just the storyline. I'm just not there with it, right? It's very similar storyline that we see with, I call it Black Misery, right? It's just basically, it was bad for Black folks, and on top of being, dealing with racists, now I got to deal with, a creature in the garage, right? It's like, damn, it's like, don't we got enough? So it's kind of like, but the genre that Jordan Peele created with us and what's the main one? Get Out. I get why he created it, man. Because think about this. He created this new genre because he wanted, basically, for lack of a better term, white folks to feel what black folks feel every day. And the only way he thought of doing that was creating it around a supernatural bent. So now when they're watching a movie, they sympathize with the main characters who typically are black. And now you feel that uneasiness, right? That we sometimes
Hmm.
feel in certain situations. And so that was his brilliant creation, right? It was like, how do you get people to empathize if they never been a black person, right? You create a movie, but you create that supernatural bent toward it that they feel, wow, that could be me, and how would I feel, right? And so that was brilliant. And so I think them takes that to the next level with a TV show. This
Yeah.
is uneasy dread throughout, and so it's for me. It's been hard to get through, but me and the missus will get through it.
Yeah, it's not connected to Jordan Peele. It's not produced by him, but it's a definite trying to follow in the footsteps of. Um, but I think them falls in the category of black trauma film. Uh, and trust me, search that term on Twitter, black trauma, and you'll see what people are talking about. Versus what Jordan Peele does, which is a more insightful kind of um, presentation, psychological look at things. So
Mhm.
I just want to make that distinction between, here's black trauma and let me shake myself into like, ooh, this shit is serious versus what Jordan Peele does, which is a little more sophisticated,
Okay.
I'd say.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's a good point. Yeah, I would love to kind of dig into that. So more to come. We'll definitely keep an eye on this, but maybe we'll talk about it next week. So let's get into the big story, the big feature this week. The streaming wars looks like they'll never end, man. We got more content that came out this week. One of the first things we'll talk about briefly is the Disney investor meeting with Bob Chapek. He talked about what their plans, what happened so far. One of the big things we kind of talked about in the live section where we talked about that they're seeing slowing down of growth, which makes sense. But in that slowdown, they still have amassed over 100 million people to subscribe to their service, which is phenomenal because they just launched 18 months ago, and that puts them at the halfway mark of Netflix, which has been around for like 7-8 years. So it's just a phenomenal what Disney Plus has done. I mean, it's a function of obviously having a great brand, content with Star Wars, and then if we're talking about business strategy, right, and then pricing, right. They hit it all out the box, right? With the brand, Disney brand is just unassailable, especially when it comes to parents like myself. I was going to buy it anyway, right? Because it's just everything Disney's there, and so the kids love that stuff. I'll buy it. But then they also had, you know, fresh content, that IP with Star Wars and Marvel. That was
Hmm.
huge. And then the price point. I mean, it was literally like they were just giving it away for a little bit, right? And it was like $6.99. I think it just recently went up a month, but then if you subscribe, for a year or and stuff like that, then you keep that, you lock in that price point. So those 3 points, and then the fact that they had nothing else working for them this year due to the pandemic, the movies are shut down, and the amusement parks were shut down as well. It's like this is like the silver lining they needed. So yeah, man, I'm excited for them, man. I mean, Disney is still on the up and up, but I heard there's still some shakeups going on at Disney, and people are kind of getting ruffled feathers, according to Grace over there at behind the trailer.
Well,
But
yeah, you've got your, we're talking about the two Bobs. For most of the people here, you will have known about Bob Iger, who is a guy who really helped push creative into Disney. And that makes sense because there wasn't anything new going on in terms of technology, in terms of the way they did things. It was pretty much just, hey, let's get good content out there for the people. Let's have good time at the theme parks. Let's make good merch. Let's get some good properties involved and all that. And he ushered in the Star Wars era and Marvel, getting those guys on board. Now we got a new Bob coming in, Bob Chapek. This guy is more of a business guy. So when uh when you mentioned shakeups, Theo, that's what people are like, flipping out over. It's like, oh my God, and now I have to hit these numbers. I have to, do things much more efficiently. So it's weird what's going on over there.
yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting how this all pans out. But I mean, Disney's still Disney and they're still raking in dough, man. So I think a couple other things outside of just the corporate, shenanigans that keep going on and how they
Mhm.
maneuver things. They announced some things around what they're going to do here with some of the movies, and so they're moving their theater window. So I think I read this, and I think Grace mentioned it as well that the natural theater window is like I think around three. What's it about? Almost 6 months or something like that before they finally come to streaming or to DVD or something like that. So they shrunk it, which to 90 days. So which is very similar, or is it 45 days? I gotta get that
45,
correct.
45.
Yeah, 45 days. So they shrunk it down tremendously, and so which is very similar to a lot of the other studios. So basically, you got a month and a half to see the movie. If not, going to streaming. So they're really changing things up, and so they're kind of following the line of a lot of other theaters and other studios. And the other thing too, they're still sending a lot of movies, direct to Disney Plus access. So we talked about Cruella, Black Widow, and then Jungle Cruise, that new the Rock, Dwayne Johnson, right? Movie that's coming out based on the what's it, the Jungle Cruise, which is another Disney ride that they're gonna try and make into a movie.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's going all so they're really experimenting with this, man. So it's going to be interesting, man. And then there's some that's going to be exclusively, like you said, going straight to movies, like So it's kind of like it's crazy times, man. But
Are
things
you
are changing, man.
are you trying to be back in the theaters?
I mean, I'll let it. I mean, I'm vaxxed, so yeah, sure, man. I mean, the new CDC announcements came out this week, so I can go.
No, I
I'll be
mean,
there.
assuming you're all good, just like, are you like, yes, I need that theater experience, or uh,
I could take it. I mean, it's nice if it's a decent movie. It's got to be a really compelling movie to get out. I mean, we saw what happened when people went out to go see Godzilla versus, I mean, King Kong versus Godzilla.
hmm
And so it's like,
and
dude,
Mortal Kombat.
yeah, exactly. So people will go out, man, if it's some good content. But you're right. I mean, Cruella, no. I mean, now Black Widow, I would, But if I'm going to see the Disney Plus, I'm like, yeah, I might as well see it at home. So I think that 45-day window makes sense. And so if it's something I really want to see, I don't want to be spoiled, or we're doing a pod, I want to get the latest content so I can be ready for it. Then yeah, I'll go see the theater. But if it's gonna go, the DVD, then I mean, excuse me, it's gonna go straight to streaming. 45 days, not a compelling movie to go watch. Yeah, I'll wait. You? What about you? Would you be in the movie theaters?
um, so I do have the nostalgic, relationship with movie theaters, and as I said a long time ago, theaters are dead now. They've taken a fatal blow, and they're just internal bleeding is going to set in at some point. Um, but I do have this nostalgic thing where it's like, hey, it's a movie night. I would I would mark out time from like 3 in the afternoon till 11 o'clock at night, where I'm basically doing a theater night. I go,
Mm.
I hang out at a little bar outside the theater. There's one right around here. It's got this little Japanese restaurant. You get some sake shots and laugh and talk. And then we take a leisurely stroll into the theater. It'd be a group of us, right? And we're in there talking about the finer points of film and cinema. We sit down, watch a movie that's a couple hours, and then we break out and may hit Starbucks or something before we all leave. It was a whole thing, right? And now with the pandemic going on, um, it's like you've opened the door to the possibility of not spending that much time. So instead of this 8 hour run, I might watch something for like a half hour and say, this just isn't for me. Turn it off and go play Fortnite. You know, um, it,
Yeah,
so
interesting.
yeah, for the bigger, more serious movies, like, hey, Star Wars release, I'm there. Um, big serious Marvel release, I'm there. For average movie, like you said with Cruella or anything like that, I'm like, you know, I don't know, dog.
No, you're right. Yeah, so my experience with movies the last years is, kind of like the opposite of yours. Since I have a growing family, I look at it as that as my escape. So basically, I'll go see it in the afternoon. Like 2 o'clock on a Friday. I'm there, man. Let me just get out
Oh
early,
yeah,
and I got
yeah,
like
yeah.
that 2 hours. I don't have to think about anything. At the phone, I'm not looking at the phone for 2 hours. I mean, that's like the only place where it's like, because even now when I watch movies, if even if it's a good movie I'm watching on streaming, I'm distracted sometimes, right? Or or I'll try to fast forward through the slow parts. The movie theater experience, the only one was like for 2.5 hours, my mind is kind of turned off a little bit, and it feels
Yeah,
good,
yeah.
man, just to just not have to think about stuff. So to me, that's my and so both go for different reasons, and so for me, I'll probably still go because I like that just escape where I don't have to think or be around a bunch of folks. Whereas you see it as a way to be around people, right, and talk about and do stuff. So and
Yeah,
to you,
yeah.
it's like, do I really need that right now? Whereas I think it's more of a release for me. So yes, I will still go. I think you're on the fence. So anyway, so we digress, but it's just kind of interesting to see what's
Um,
going to happen in the
r-
future.
really big indicator that I don't know what it indicates exactly, but over the last Black Friday, the last holiday season, the number of large screen TVs that sold was freaking huge. So there are people with three TVs in their living room, like a small one in the corner for the kids to watch. They just put their headphones on. You got another one like sitting on the kitchen table that you can play Fortnite on, one with one kid. You got the main TV that the dad is watching or the mom is watching. It's it's crazy how many TVs have sold lately. So you got to put something on those TVs, and when you got all those screens, it's like, what's the draw? So we'll keep an eye on this one. This is interesting.
Yeah, yeah, good point, man. Yeah, I was gonna try to look at the numbers, but I'll put that in the show notes later. But yeah, this would be interesting what that exact number was. But anyway, yeah, and and that's the same thing with gyms. People invested in gyms at their house and stuff like that. So there's a lot of investments that went to just being at home for a long periods of time. Are people going back to those same patterns? And you're right. They probably will in some capacity, but probably nowhere near the same levels, right, that we did pre-pandemic. So it's going to be interesting. So, real quick, Warner Media CEO Jason Kilar, he talked to the Wall Street Journal on how they're going to win, right, against Disney and Netflix and other streamers. Very interesting article, man, in the Wall Street Journal. He kind of talked about how they got into this. So as we all remember, HBO Max came late to the party, so they were behind the times. Plus, they're at a higher price point, like $15, like a normal HBO subscription. And it was confusion, right? Because we didn't know what it was, it was HBO, with HBO Max, and they had TV shows on there. So everything I said was good about the Disney strategies. Think about the opposite for HBO Max, right? The pricing was off,
Oh,
right? The brand was confusing, and the product was just middle of the road, right, when they first launched, right? So
mhm.
he came up with a great idea to just release all their 2020 movies straight to the streamer, right? They would go to streamer first, and then or at the same time as theaters for a month, for 30 days, and then they would disappear off the streamer. And so that's what's been happening over the last couple of months. Obviously, he got some flack because he didn't talk to folks, to the Hollywood elite, create these movies, like the big star talent. So basically, he had to cut another check for $200 million to pay
Yeah.
people like Denzel Washington and like these big time directors. Say, look, let's pretend your movie made 100 million. This is because they have all these we talked about with Julius a little bit. They have these ironclad contracts in place. Julius was a legal representative. They have these ironclad contracts in place that says that, hey, if our movie makes this much money, this is how much we're going to get on the back end in participation. And so they had to assume every one of these movies they're going to release, I think it's something like what, 15 to 20 movies, they had to pretend they were like all blockbusters and had to pay them out as such, even though some of those movies are trash.
Yeah.
So, make a long story short, he, took a risk, and I give him commend for that because he came from, Silicon Valley. He was a longtime Amazon executive. Get that? I think he worked on Amazon Prime before he switched over to Hulu, and now he's over at HBO Max or Warner Media. And so it's kind of interesting, man. So we'll get into a little tidbits of the story itself, but I mean, HBO Max, man, what do we think? We talked about this before, but how, can they win? I mean, where are they at right now when it comes to streaming wars?
It's like they should have an easy position of, the more sophisticated adult streaming service, but somehow they haven't really carved it out. Like I logged on and it's like telling me to watch and I guess this is part of the whole algorithm, but it's giving me nonsense, and I'm like, yo, there's good stuff on this service. Why are you sending me nonsense? I don't come here for what I can get on Netflix and what I can get on Disney Plus. And I don't know, it just feels like this whole catch up game that they're trying to play. And it doesn't feel true to HBO.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, the brand we talked about The Sopranos, that came from HBO, right? And,
Mhm.
that was a brilliant show. A lot of shows, The Wire, Sex and the City, all Game of Thrones, all came from HBO. And so now with this HBO Max branding exercise, and then Warner, studio was well known, right? Christopher Nolan, Tenet came out on Warner, right? Which we talked about. So it's like they had a lot of good branding in Warner, had a lot of great branding with HBO. They meshed them together and it came out as trash. And so what I think Christopher Nolan hit it best. He said, I didn't, go into movies to go work for the third best streaming service, right? And so Christopher Nolan, director of Tenet and all those crazy movies like Memento and all that. So make a long story short, I will say this: you hint at something, right? Do they have the stomach to create the content, right? Because so there's a quote in there I thought was hilarious, and I'll share it with everyone. In this article, it said a concern among many WarnerMedia executives is whether AT&T, which owns WarnerMedia now, which is AT&T, the telecom giant, AT&T has a stomach for the level of funding needed to keep generating fresh content for HBO Max over the next several years. They currently see a gap of more than $2 billion between what HBO Max has ordered and what they need in order to create this content. When asked about this, Mr. Killar, the CEO, said, "Sounds juicy." So
I
I
love it.
thought that was the funniest thing ever, man. That's a flex, man. And so is it so what are you gonna do, sir? Sounds
Mm,
good.
uh, juicy.
So jury's still out on HBO Max, man. I wish them well. Because I think there's potential there,
Yeah,
but yeah, they got a long ways to go.
yeah. So yeah, for people who always wonder like why is this show like this or how does this happen? And a lot of it is how the business structure is laid out. It's if you've got this guy just making comments like sounds juicy, when talking about like a $2 billion miscommunication of some sort, it's it's like, yeah, he's obviously not in control the way he wants to be to say that comment. I don't know, but it just points to a lot of why you're getting what you're getting.
Yeah. And then finally, Netflix, we always kind of come to the granddaddy of them all. We kind of talked a little bit about them and about their challenges with great content. Looks like I don't love this name, but looks like they're testing what they call an N plus service. Not to be confused with the N word, N plus, right? So looks like they're trying to create a service that is going to be aligned with their content that allows users to listen to music from the shows or podcasts from the TV shows and movies, and then also maybe influence the pre-production of the hot content, right? So like, hey, I'll vote that, if they're going to show some new Witcher TV show, I vote for the Witcher to die in his next episode, right, or something like that. So,
Mm,
I mean, I commend them. They're doing some interesting things technology wise. Anyone who's seen Bandersnatch, the one of the Black Mirror episodes where it was kind of like choose your own
yeah.
adventure type TV show. I commend them, man. I think they'll do something interesting like that. I question though, and that was a one of those things that I kind of hinted at that Netflix may try to do, but you know they still have a content problem. So yeah, you can create all this stuff that's ancillary to content, but if no one's watching your content,
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's uh a friend had a term for that, and I can't remember what he called it now because it had me laughing. But basically, I used to work in games, and when we were creating a game, we're trying to get the right gameplay and feel. Like when you pick up Mario 64, you've got this proper feel going on. You're like, okay, yeah, it feels like he should be running around and jumping. And instead of a studio spending time on the guy running around and jumping, that major core of it that feels good, which is the content in Netflix's case, they start worrying about other things like, hey, on the high score screen, can we get stars to pop out when you bring up the like, yo, we're trying to get the run and jump right, man. We're trying to get the feeling of Mario right. And it's like, yeah, yeah. But when you jump into the water, can we have the water ripple and have a little splash come off? And when he gets out of the water, can it have him like dripping off his hat? That'd be really cool. And you're sitting here trying to figure out, like, yeah, that's fine, but we haven't figured out how to make the boss for level 3 yet, and you're worried about water dripping off his hat. So
Hmm.
you start to get a Netflix, it feels, is starting to get away from the core of building good content that can be streamed to you. So, you can have all these features, and maybe here's what may happen. Maybe the features, these interesting things, will bring the content to their service instead of somebody's like, you know what? I feel this is new, fresh content. It needs to go to Netflix instead of somebody else with more money. So
Hmm. Hmm.
maybe that'll
Yeah.
happen.
And I didn't cover this real quick, but like, back when Warner Media started, a lot of their content, they were licensed it out to all these streamers, right? And so they made tons of money, like billions of dollars from that. And now they're trying to create their own service. So Netflix, likewise, Netflix is losing out on, original content, right? That they usually had before. That's how they built their network. And so now they got to create their own content. And so the jury's still out if they can create, innovative, their own content that can sustain people long term, right? That have that real the IP brand that you need that we talked about before. And hopefully, to your point, maybe these new services can help build this content up
Yeah.
better. But we'll see. It's going to be
So
interesting.
check this out, real quick, for Netflix. So if everybody else is only thinking content and only thinking quality story, um, I will admit that that's not the only way to make a platform exciting. Netflix has the opportunity to build on three areas: community, uh, connectivity, and interactivity. And when I say community, I mean something like Twitch. I mean, the way you have watch parties, just connecting on, being able to thumbs up, and I'm sure the algorithms could, group you into different ways, people. So that's the community aspect that works a lot better. The connectivity, are you, how are you connecting to their service? Is there an app that you can kind of vote and share with your friends? Are you better connected with the technology? Like Disney Plus is pretty lame in that respect. It's like you just go there, watch, and you turn it off. You're done. Um, don't do anything else. And the interactivity, like you were saying with Bandersnatch, this is something that's largely unexplored. It's like, do you want to, while you're watching a movie, do you want to do other things besides simply watch? Do you want to vote? Do you want to choose your own adventure? Do you want to do like a live comment? Um, like imagine you're watching it, and you've got your little face at the bottom left corner of the screen, and anybody could watch your live reactions while you're, sitting there on Netflix. That's interesting to some
Man,
people. So
now you're getting my mind thinking, man. If I have a Peloton, and so what they have is like, hey, you can compare yourself to all time. So people, because it's on demand content, right? So you have always people using it, but then they also have a function where it's live. So like, hey, these are a group of people that's literally on the Peloton the same time as you. Do you want to interact with them? And so to your point, because Netflix content is just always going to be around. I might watch it at 3 a.m. You might watch it at 2 p.m. Right? But then there might be people in Yugoslavia, right, who watch it at the same time I watch it. Now I can comment with them, and now we form a little community, right? We're the 3 a.m. watchers, right? So let's just talk about the shows we watch. So
yeah,
to your point, I can see that happening, man. So like I said, I mean, it's a prediction I made 6 months ago that they were going to do something like this. So we'll see if they get it out before the end of the year. So man, I love it, man. We're going to keep talking about the streaming services. Just it's such a microcosm of show and business because of what they're doing here. So it's going to be interesting. So let's get into our recaps, man.
okay, let's do it.
Jupiter's Legacy. We hinted at it last week. We got a little discrepancy. We'll go into spoiler reviews of this. So, we're just gonna cut to the chase. I liked it, but I see the problems. But I liked it. You been?
Um, I didn't like it, and I see the problems. um,
I love it. I love it.
I
Yeah.
Okay, well, no, it was curious to me. Like I kept waiting on something to happen, and I got to the very end of it, and I thought to myself, all of this should have happened in the first episode. Like the stuff I cared about should have happened in the first episode, but it happened at the last episode. I'm like, what is this? I don't know what drew you to it. If it's a better question.
I get, I kind of hinted at during our live episode. I kind of like the shows that kind of talk about superheroes and their commitment to family, right? As they get
Mhm.
older, right? It's like you build, I'm past that age of being, into Spider-Man because, I mean, I love Spider-Man still, don't get me wrong, but the reason why you were drawn to him because he was like you, right? This is who you would act like if you had
Mm,
superpowers, especially in high school, college, young adult. But as you get older and you're having kids and you're kind of dealing with other kind of responsibilities, now having superhero stories that kind of speak to me, I think that's what drew me in. And so I like the interplay with family, right? They had two stories going on, right? The stories of how the older generation got their powers, right? Which is set in the 40s, and it was a little bit old fashioned, but it made sense to me with the family interplay between the brother and the main character. But then what even the younger generation, that made sense to me, right? Not one to have the powers of their parents or the responsibilities of parents, or in some cases one to try to live up to the responsibilities of their parents, right? And so to me, I thought there's enough there, to kind of draw it out. And I think you kind of hinted at it too. It's kind of like what you say is like a mix between family drama and a superhero. I don't know if the mix,
yeah,
you said sometimes that mix doesn't work well, right? But I think there's enough
mango
there.
chutney salsa is what I
That's
called it.
exactly your words. That's exactly your words. So I think there's enough potential there, right, to kind of say, hey, this could have something, especially if they get more into the younger generation, right? Because I was fascinated by Hutch, which is the next generation of the main character. His name was it Sky Fox? But I think
Mhm.
I guess he was the Batman analog. They didn't really talk about it too much, but I think he was, because everybody is basically analog for someone else in DC or Marvel. It always is like that, right? So Sky Fox is kind of like the analog for Batman, and he was this rich playboy that that was the best friend to the main character, I want to say Utopian. Is that was his name? The Utopian.
Yeah.
Uh, so anyway, make a long story short, I think there's some fascinating stuff there. I like the stuff with Chloe, even Brandon, the son and daughter of the Utopian. I thought there were some interesting things there going on there. Even the brother, man, and the Utopian, his brother who played Mindbender or something like that. I think he was kind of interesting, the interplay between them. Like you can tell he has some interesting thoughts about how superheroes should
Yeah.
format, but for whatever reason, he did not push his agenda for like 90 years until now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting.
It it played out weird to me because I think the story elements that you get from the hero genre are one thing, and the story elements you get from a family drama are another thing. Can you successfully meld them together? And what I got from it was, at somewhere along the way, I was like, you know what? I'd rather see like a corporate, you know, a corporate drama out of this, where you have a family of people, and the corporation is run by this family, and they're having arguments and stuff. That's what I felt like I should have been watching, instead of these guys in spandex.
Mhm,
It just felt off to me. I don't know. Does that make sense?
mhm. Yeah, it does. And I do feel like there were some characters that got shortchanged, right? I mean, they literally never explained why the black guy was in a wheelchair with a scarred face, right? It was like, he was like a compelling character at the beginning. Well,
Mhm.
I'm gonna go on this vision, this quest, because they're not gonna hire a black guy. And then 60 years later, he's in a wheelchair, right? It's like
Yeah.
they never explained that. It's like we'll get to that later kind of thing. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
well, I want to know now.
so to me, that's the core thing about heroes with powers. It's not just like you have a guy with a superpower. The To me, the power is supposed to represent something. It's supposed to be an
Mhm,
allegory for something. Um,
mhm.
the spandex, the crazy outfits, and that's all a caricature of the actual person's soul, his being, his humanity, that person's character. So, like with the Flash, it's like you've got somebody who thinks that the world is moving too slow and, you know, can't ever can't ever get enough time, doesn't get enough time with his dad. He doesn't have
His
time
mom,
to
especially.
fix it. Yeah, his mom also. And there are all these things about time and things racing forward and everything that's central to the character. So, um, when you have stuff like the, you know, guy in a wheelchair with the scarred face, that's it should mean something, but as you said, they were just like, "No, no, it's just stuff." And I was like, If it's just stuff, then why is it even there? Just strip all that out and, do a home on the range family drama and be done with it."
Yeah, yeah. That's a fair point. I mean, great superhero movies. I mean, I'm thinking about the Marvel stuff. I mean, Marvel's really they understand their characters like I mean, DC characters are more like gods. I mean, yes, there's some element of that you're saying, but really they're just representative of gods, right? Superman is basically a god on earth, right? And how he relates
Mhm.
to being, a human being, whereas you look at like Iron Man, right? It's like, he has no heart, right? And so he has to learn how to have a heart, and that's amazing, right? Or like the Hulk, right? Like you mentioned, this anger is a reflection of this guy who can't control it, right? And so he becomes a Hulk when he's angry. So it's kind of like you're right that the writing, and that's kudos to Stan Lee, right? And all the creators of the artist creators of those characters. They highlighted the superpower tied to a character trait that we can relate to, right? And Spider-Man, he's got all these powers, but he's a kid, right? He's barely know how to use it, right? And so he's always messing up, right? He's just doing the best he can.
Yeah.
Steve Rogers is the ultimate soldier. So he's always thinking ahead. He could
Mhm.
be, evil, but he was such a good guy inside that it just, portrays who he is. So yeah, every one of the Marvel characters are just well done where it's like that. Now, if you go to these other off-brand characters, for lack of a better term, like Jupiter's Legacy or even the Invincible, right? It's kind of like, they're trying to take the archetypes that Marvel and DC have already created and create their own kind of, interesting things. But can they create enough depth with that? And that's always a challenge. And I think that's just a function of these new characters, and then the fact that you're right, they had like 8 episodes or something. They didn't really tell a complete story that makes sense in your
Eh,
story in your talk.
So so what do you think Millar is up to? Because it the thought that was kind of floating around was that he's about to start this whole Millar world universe, and does the entire universe come from these Jupiter's Legacy people? I don't know. I don't know what's in store. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, good point. I don't know, man. I mean, I've read a couple of his comic books, like Kick Ass and what's it, Wanted. And those they came out as movies first, right? And so a
Mhm.
lot of them we've seen already. Jupiter's Legacy is the first one that is I think it's still ongoing too. He hasn't finished it yet. He's still working through that. So I have no idea, man. I mean, he's like I said, he's a hustler, man. Because literally, I listened to about like 5, 6 different podcasts, and he was there. He was out there, running his mouth about that. He was on the Grayson's podcast. Some other podcasts I listened to. So he was out there talking about this show, man. So he's out there, man, selling. So I don't know. I mean, if nothing else, look, they got him under contract. They basically bought Millar World to buy him, and he's an ideal generating dude. So if
Yeah.
nothing else, he'll create some just like Shonda Rhimes, right?
Yeah.
In her genre, she's ideal generating type person. So if not, and what's the other one they bought? Uh, he did Pose, and he did some other TV shows. Ryan Murphy, right? They
Okay.
bought him. So they just bring these creators. So whatever his Malar world will be, what they're doing is just trying to download his brain and trying to figure out, okay, like you said, you have to have a superhero spine if you're a streaming service. And so the spine is Mark Millar. So Mark Millar, go in that basement and figure out what kind of stories you need to
Yeah.
pump out that people are going to watch.
So yeah, now I want to go back and find out how they got to the process of developing the Netflix Marvel series, because I guess that was in my head as, okay, here's how you start a universe.
Hmm.
You have Daredevil, and it kind of splinters off. You get Punisher and Luke Cage, and so there's interest there. And even with ABC, and the
Agents of Shield.
Inhumans and Agents of Shield, you could see how, regardless of what you think of it, you see how they're setting up a larger world. With Jupiter's
Hmm.
Legacy, I'm like, oh, I don't even know where. Does some random person on the other side of a planet all of a sudden start having a story, and it links or doesn't link into their story? Is it the same universe, or is it just a bunch of individual shows? I don't know. So
Hmm. Yeah, I would attest that probably Disney didn't put as much interest in the TV shows back in the day. I mean, I
you
saw
mean
the potential. I mean, yeah,
Netflix shows?
for the Netflix and Disney, that the Daredevil,
Hmm.
Iron Fist, Jessica Jones. Now, I thought there was some great things that came out of that, right? With Luke Cage, and I thought they were going to go some interesting ways with Luke Cage, but they canceled it. So, but it's obviously Disney may have saw, like, you know what, we might as well just own these and do our own thing with these characters, right? And
Right.
so I think that, and then also they probably saw the power of Netflix over time. So anyway, make a long story short, you're right though, Disney, but they've been doing this for what, over 10 years, right? And Kevin Feige, he has his hands on everything, so he probably
Well, it
understands
wasn't it
world
wasn't
building better
Feige
than
at the
anyone.
time. It wasn't Feige
Yeah,
at
it
the
was just,
time with
but wait,
uh
wait, but it was Jeff Loeb. I remember, but it was no, was that DC? I can't remember. It was somebody from Marvel that came in and
uh
kind of did the
Ike
TV stuff.
Ike it was under Ike's control at the time, because Ike
Oh wow.
Perlmutter, I believe is his last name, um, had the side of Marvel Studios, which, not studios, Marvel, I forgot what they called it, but it was the comics and the TV properties were under one umbrella, and Feige had the MCU. So
Hmm.
they were kind of doing things concurrently. Sometimes they weren't talking to each other. Um,
Good point.
but when they set up the structure for the Netflix TV shows, I was like, okay, that's interesting. I like that structure. As I said, quality, whatever you say about it is whatever. But I think that structure worked well and got people really thinking about, the next season, the previous season, wanting to get in on the merch and everything. Um, so yeah, and then, but all that's canceled now because we're moving over to Disney Plus and they've got a whole new strategy. But yeah, it's I'm still just clueless as to what Millar and Netflix are trying to work out there.
Yeah, good point. I'm actually literally looking up, what went wrong with that Netflix Marvel connection, right? Because I mean, uh, they produced what? They had 2 seasons of Iron Fist. No, yeah, 2 seasons of Iron Fist, 2 seasons of Jessica Jones, 2 seasons of what's his name? Power
Okay.
Man. Yeah, Cage. 2 seasons of Daredevil. They did the called Defenders, right?
Hmm.
And they did episode of with Punisher. So that's 10 shows. And
Hmm.
it just poof, just like that, man. And so I'm literally trying to figure out what happened, man, because it was, and I think we all kind of liked them too, man. I mean, except for Iron Fist, but everyone else was pretty good. So
I
I
will
don't know,
never
man.
call
It's
him.
kind of
I will
interesting.
never call him that by name. He is officially known to me as Cotton Fist. That show was
So,
soft.
well, I heard the second season was better, but I didn't even get through the first season, man. It was sad. But so yeah, look, maybe we'll do a deep dive on that, man. So long story short, Jupiter's Legacy, I see potential. I liked it, but you're saying, hey, the world building sucks, and we got to see where they're going with it. But I guarantee we're gonna see more of it because they got the IP, so they're gonna figure this out.
Wor Oh god, I didn't even talk about the world building. Like, there are no exciting locations. Nobody came from a certain place. I mean, you have this 1920s, 1940s, whatever, you know, weird place that they went to, but I don't know. That was kind of like in a dream or something. It's
They went to Jupiter, man. They opened the
yeah.
gate to Jupiter.
They got the
Jupiter's Legacy.
the supermax prison, which wasn't terribly exciting. Uh, that it just failed me to. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, just like everything on Netflix, it probably gotta go in the kitchen a little bit longer, man. Just gotta go in the oven just a little bit longer, man. Because
Yeah.
you're right. There's a lot of good ideas. You're right, and it's just like they're missing a few components of it, right? And to be fair, I think the casting doesn't do any favors too. I mean, it's like I literally never heard of, I know Josh Duhamel, I think that's how you say it. He's been on some stuff back in the day, Leslie Bibb, but they're not like, big name folks. And, so, and also their acting was just okay. So that can, harm the show a little bit. So anyway, man, we'll probably, I'm sure we'll cover it again because Netflix is not going to give up on this. They have
Uh,
to have it.
Real,
So,
real,
Bad
real,
Batch, go ahead.
real quick before we jump into that, you know what I found out?
What's that?
Um, with good shows, you can jump like 2 seasons, 5 episodes, however far you want ahead, and
Uh
start
huh.
watching it at any point, and you're kind of like, "Hey, wait a minute, what happened here? Oh, is this working out? Wait, did I miss something?" And you want to go back. With a
Good
bad show,
point.
or a very unstructured show, you try to jump forward and you hear blah 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 blah. It's like, yeah, I don't care. You jump forward, and the guy's like got a red cape instead of a blue cape. You're like, yeah, I don't care. And you just keep going. A good show, you can skip
Mm.
ahead, and you're like, whoa, 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 that's interesting. I have to go back.
Good point. Yeah, that's a fair point. Cause and it's a good show if you fell asleep on it and you like, "Oh, crap, what did I miss? Oh, damn, let me go back." But if you wake up and you're like, "Hey, it's okay. I'll keep going from here." I've done that before.
I'll keep going from where I am.
Yeah, man, I've done that before. Fall asleep on the show and like, "Oh, man, that was what happened here? Okay, let me go back." But you're right. That's I love that. I love that, man. So, we'll definitely put that on the notes. So, Bad Batch,
Bad, bad.
what you got for us, man? Episode 3.
I like what the show is doing. It's not like crazy bombastic. It's just a solid, quick series, easy, simple. I love it.
Okay. Quick and easy. I mean, any thoughts on this last episode? I mean, more of the same. I mean, obviously they have my boy in there,
Yeah,
Crosshair. He's back.
yeah. So your first two were kind of your first one's introductory. Your second episode, you set up the world and the flow of action a little bit. Now you get to your third episode, do some more character building. So we get to find out a little more about Crosshair and his motives and how he's feeling about working with new people and how he relates to authority structures and people that are in the way of the mission. And we get to learn more about Omega and how this new character is interacting with Hunter, Wrecker, Tech, and the rest of the Bad Batch. So it was a very interesting vibe between the darkness of the show,
Mhm.
like wow, this guy's just killing fools, and he's not taking any prisoners, and the lightness of the show, where it's like, oh, this monster's quite nice. He just wants a little electricity to bite on, and it was very heartwarming and dark at the same time, and I thought that balance was just brilliantly done. So I'm digging
Mm.
it, man. No big expectations, no craziness. Just like, you know what, I'm gonna watch this and be happy.
Uh-huh. I get it, man. I mean, yeah, it's functional. I mean, like I said, I mean, something to watch with my kids better than Clone Wars. So I'm watching it, kind of getting a sense of that. But it's not like I mean, it was kind of rough to watch that scene with Crosshair was basically murking folks, in cold blood and forcing the rest of the recruits, the regs, the regular folks, recruits to go, kind of murder them. So that's kind of tough to watch with the kids, man. But
Yeah.
and I did say this, didn't I say that they already hinted at? Oh, he doesn't act that. He's only acting this way because we turned up his inhibitor chip.
Yep. Yep.
So they already kind of inferring that once they get that out of him, he's gonna be I didn't mean to kill all the people. So it's going to be interesting to see where this character goes. But yeah, he's on a mission, man. But I think they're still trying to make the case why you need to go for recruits versus clones. I don't think they made that case yet, man. It's like because they have to make a case to why they got away from clones in the original series, right, with Star Wars. And it's like I don't think they're gonna make a compelling case for this, man, because the regular folks are
Yeah.
still messing up, man, already,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the clones are still wrecking shop. So it's like, I mean, because it's cost, it's got to be like, I mean, they must be paying the Empire must be paying them, millions of dollars for these clones or billions of dollars for these clones because they're not making the case that these recruits are going to be, compelling to be relevant in the new
Yeah.
Empire.
I think that was subtly implied that they're just expensive, but, I don't that's not a as far as Star Wars is concerned, that's not a strong plot point, like, "They're expensive," it's like, "What? Come on, you're Star
I
Wars."
know, man. Especially and then the guy who was with this new guy they brought in. I guess he's, the little do boy, right? He's coming in. Oh yeah, well, the recruits are better, man. They're ready to go. And look at these guys. These guys are badass. They're looking all tough. So when you put them in the field, man. Well, I'm not gonna kill nobody. Forget this. I'm like, dude, you supposed to be badass, man. He's like, oh, it's the same empire, same as the republic. I'll do whatever it takes. Talk all that mess.
Yeah.
We'll take it over from the clone. I'll be leading this squad in no time. I'm like, come on, man, get out of here, man.
So is this, is this Lieutenant Buster and, this, and his squad of merry men, I'm wondering I don't assume they're gonna last. They're gonna get kicked out or something. Um, but I guess they're either gonna support the Bad Batch guys or, just fail at what they've been doing. I don't know. It's actually kinda
Man,
interesting to me though.
I just wish that this is the first time they're introducing recruits, right? And they got to make the case why recruits are going to be the de facto way the empire does business, right?
Yeah,
They
yeah,
didn't make that case, and this is the case to do it, right? If they're going to do this, then these guys should have been badass, right? And they would have just done it and just kept it moving, but they did not make that case, and so now it's like, why'd y'all go away from clones? Because we already know in Star Wars, you know. Stormtroopers can hit for shit, so it's kind of
yeah.
like
You know what? So we didn't really see their military skill prowess, did we? I mean, we know that they're not very um, cutthroat, so that was a problem for the Empire. But maybe they'll be able to show off their skills and stuff, and we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
But
too late, man. They had a chance, brother. The first this
they
episode,
messed,
man, they
yeah,
messed it
yeah,
up.
yeah.
They messed it up, man.
No taste.
They made it a point to introduce a new character that was over this program, right? And so it's like, dude, you do all that for this. I mean, you have to draw a whole new character, right, to introduce this. And so now this guy represents the mode of where they're going for the future, and he fucked up. So it's
So
like, dude, get out of
so
here.
yeah. So I don't know about the crew, but Lieutenant Buster, he's gonna die, blow up in a starship, or get fired, ungracefully or something. But
And
Tarkin's
then
gonna
you
do.
saw, man,
Tarkin's
you
gonna
always
kill
get
him.
better. What's the alien race that's over the clone program?
Kaminoans
Yeah,
from planet
so
Kamino. So
Camino, okay, Caminions, or I'm not gonna say it, man. I don't know, but
they said it once in
they,
the show. I forgot how it goes.
yeah. So
Kaminoans. I
you
don't know.
see, yeah, long neck aliens. So you see that they're up to something, man. I mean, they're like kind of figuring out this. So I don't know. Maybe they're gonna make some cheap clones, and that's where we get the stormtroopers from. I don't know. So I hope they got a rationale to kind of figure this out because they gotta bridge that gap. They need recruits, they need an army, and we know there's stormtroopers everywhere in Star Wars. So
Yeah.
how does that happen? And if they don't explain that in this series, it's like, well, you watch Rebels, were stormtroopers around in Rebels?
Um. Yeah. By the time Rebels rolls around, we've got the Keystone Troopers going on, Keystone
Okay.
Cops, and so
And missing shots and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
So,
they're the
so
troopers
maybe
we
the
know.
good. So maybe the aliens or the Commonians, they said, "Hey, you know what? We're just gonna get. We got some new clones. You know, they're a reasonable price. Now, don't expect a lot, but if price is an issue, we got you."
Is that too much for your wallet, Mister Moff Tarkin? Let me get something from the back.
It's on discount. Now they may not be able to shoot,
No
but look,
warranty.
they look
No
good.
warranty.
No warranty, no give backs. And we got a million of them ready to go. So you ready? So
I
it's
I still like your theory about bringing Palpatine into the mix. I think that would be you know I think that'd be interesting enough where I'd be entertained.
I guess, man. That'll be a flex though.
Yeah.
He's ready to come. That clone. He's so yeah. In 30 years, I'll be back.
Yeah.
They'll find me.
I mean, they did put him on the big screen in the very first episode, so that may have been like a plug for Palpatine. It's like, hey, I'm here at the very beginning of the show. It's all about Order 66, right?
Well, where does Snoke come from? I mean, it's like, is Snoke going to be? I mean, so basically, the big thing is, are they going to try to explain some of the what they call it, the sequels, right?
Hmm.
Are they going to with this series? And I don't think they will. I mean, Dave Filoni seems like he's doing his own thing, right? He's trying to flesh out, pre Star Wars stuff, but it would behoove them to kind of start fleshing that out. I mean, those movies exist, man, unless they could just gonna just write them all off. So I don't know what they're gonna do, man. It's like they gotta explain those shows, man, those movies. A lot of that stuff is like ready to go. And then, eventually people probably turn back. Some of them will come back to these sequels, man, these last sequels, and they'll be like, hey, you know what? They were actually better than you think, just like some people came around for the prequels. So it's Star Wars, man. I don't know, man. It's in a bad place, man. It's just the one thing about it, just like, I mean, the prequels are bad. I mean, they were okay, it had some moments, but at least we know where it was going. Then the sequels are worse because they didn't know where they were going. So it's just like, what is going on,
We
man?
gotta do a top 10 list one day. Just the movies all ranked. I want to see what you come up with.
Just, I mean, I guarantee that we both in the top three. Well, you may put Return of the Jedi
Oh,
maybe
we'll,
four.
we'll do that at another date. We'll
Yeah,
do
okay.
that.
All right. Yeah, well, we're going against the time, man. But anyway, man, anything you got ready for the week coming up?
No, we're gonna be putting more clips out there for you guys. So you can get more quick interactions. We know we cover a lot on the show, so I'm gonna break it up into some chunks and get some more clips out there. We got our Facebook presence going more, so if you're not following us there, you can get in, leave some comments. No, that's kind of hard to do on a podcast like Apple Podcast or whatever. So yeah, we're all around, man.
Yeah, man, we're doing it, man. We're trying to get this content out, man. It's been yeah, almost 6 months now. So every week, man, we're putting that hotness out there. So hey everyone, thanks for listening to us. Find us wherever you listen to podcasts, Show versus Business on Twitter, on Facebook, wherever you listen to podcasts. We thank you for your time today. Appreciate it. Check us out where you want to listen to us, and we'll I guess we'll talk to you next week.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Show versus Business, your weekly take on pop culture. Please subscribe to this podcast at Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. Please like and subscribe to our Instagram page, Show versus Business, to get exclusive behind the scenes takes and upcoming episodes. Talk to you next time.
Finish him!